Hello everybody, Maven here, and today we're going over a Solar Warlock build, which as you can see by the background gameplay, allows you to spam your Incinerator Snap or Celestial Fire, whichever you prefer, nearly infinitely. And I did say in the title that this build will be great in Lightfall, and what I mean about that is that most really good PvE builds nowadays revolve heavily around Elemental Wells. But remember, Bungie announced that Elemental Wells are being taken away in Lightfall, and they're adding more of a focus around Charged with Light, and adding more ways to become Charged with Light. And that will greatly benefit this build because it is based around becoming Charged with Light, for the most part. There's another change coming in Lightfall that will benefit this build as well that we'll talk about later in the video. So stay tuned for the full build breakdown, and if you want to show your support, a like and a comment are greatly appreciated, and let's get to it. Hope you enjoy. So to preface this build, it is pretty much based around the aspect called heat rises. Now everybody usually thinks of heat rises as, oh, I can pop my nade and float in the air for a super long time. That's cool, but that's not what this is about. A piece of text on heat rises subtext that a lot of people overlook and don't even know exists is that final blows while airborne grant melee energy. And it is a pretty significant amount of melee energy, and you do not have to have heat rises proc in order to get this. All you have to do is be in the air. You can even simply just jump and kill something and then land back down, and you just got granted a whole bunch of melee energy. So you pair this with a special weapon that has the Pugilist perk, and now you're cooking. And for those who don't know, perks like Demolitionist and Pugilist that grant you ability energy on primary weapons and heavy weapons, final blows will grant 10% of your energy back. However, on special weapons, besides tracer rifles, but every other special weapon, Pugilist / Demolitionist final blows will grant 20% ability energy. It is twice as effective on special weapons, so with this build I highly recommend a special Pugilist weapon. I am using the Mindbender's Ambition. That is my Pugilist special of choice. You can either have Pugilist Incandescent or Pugilist 1-2 Punch, whichever you prefer. So the combination of this plus the jump shot melee energy from Heat Rises, and that is a ton of ability energy. I'll show this clip right here. I'm gonna throw away my 2 melee charges. I have no ability energy. I jump shot 3 goblins, and just like that, I pretty much get 2 entire melee charges back for just 3 jump shots. And the way we have 2 melee charges is because my exotic choice with this build is the Claws of Ahakmara. It grants you a second melee charge. I cannot recommend this enough. This is very solid to pair with this build. There are other good Warlock melee based options, but the Claws of Ahakmara lets you spam so much more than any other exotic. So everything I just explained is all you really need for this build to work. You can spam melees a ton just like that with no mods at all. However, to really push it through the roof, we're taking advantage of a mod called Heavy Handed. Heavy Handed says that when you become Charged with Light, it consumes a stack of Charged with Light when you get a melee final blow, and you instantly regain half of your melee energy. But note that Heavy Handed doesn't proc on your second melee charge, it's only on your first one. So I'll show the clip here. The first melee does not do anything. The second one that completely drains your energy is going to proc the Heavy Handed. So that's how it works. And on top of that, you just throw out your Phoenix Dive and you pretty much top off the rest of that melee charge because we're running double outreach on our class item. Now we're becoming Charged with Light via Elemental Charge. So we're using Bountiful Wells with a copy of Melee Wellmaker, so when we get that charged melee kill, we make 2 Solar Elemental Wells. And then we have Well of Life, so when we pick up one of those wells, we get some health regen. Now, I did say at the beginning that this build is, for the most part, not based around Elemental Wells. It's mostly based around Charged with Light, and that's true for the most part. However, for now, we have to use this until Lightfall, because Lightfall is going to take wells away and give us more ways to become Charged with Light. So there is definitely going to be a substitute that we can use to become Charged with Light, probably a lot more efficiently than this way. And there is even an alternate way you can set this up right now without wells at all by just running Charge Harvester with stacks on stacks. So you don't need Elemental Wells at all with this build. But for now, this is what I would recommend using. And now I did say before also that there's another change coming in Lightfall that is going to greatly benefit this build. And that is that there will no longer be elemental affinities tied to armor mods. So we can mix and match mods that we previously could never do. So that means on our gloves, we can now run a copy of Momentum Transfer and Impact Induction. And on our class item, we can run Bomber and Outreach together. So this will become as much of a grenade spam build as it is a melee spam build. So because of the fact that we cannot mix and match these right now, we are using momentum transfer in our gloves. So we deal damage with a grenade that's going to grant us some melee energy back. It's a pretty significant chunk of melee energy, just like double outreach. Now let's talk about the rest of our subclass abilities. For my other aspect, I am running Icarus Dash just because I love the movement and I honestly can't live without it. If you can live without it, then something that would benefit you a lot more is going to be Touch of Flame to enhance your fusion grenades, because those Touch of Flame fusion grenades are stupidly powerful. They are so strong and easily ignite things. And because of Ignitions, we are running Ember of Ashes. It says you apply more Scorch stacks to targets. And Celestial Fire I prefer over Incinerator Snap just because of the range, but Incinerator Snap causes a lot more ignitions than the Celestial Fire does. One single snap on a fat target will cause it to ignite. And the reason I'm using the Fusion Grenade is because it has a very quick base cooldown, yet it's very strong compared to the rest of these. Technically, the Firebolt Grenade cools down just a slight bit quicker, but it feels very weak, so I recommend the Fusion Grenade. My class ability, I'm using Phoenix Dive because you're going to be airborne a lot with this, and you can dive back down to Earth and heal yourself while also getting quickly to those elemental wells to pick them up. And then for the rest of my fragments, I'm running Ember of Eruption that gives your Ignitions increased area of effect. That's very useful because you're going to be igniting things a lot. Then I got Ember of Searing, defeating Scorched targets grants melee energy. That is another source of melee energy right there. And especially if you pair this build with a Mindbender that has Pugilist and Incandescent, that causes more Scorch. And for my final fragment, I'm running Ember of Charis as your Solar Ignition, spread Scorch to affected targets. Now this one is not technically needed. The reason I have this is just because of the plus 10 discipline, because Ember of Torches, what you should be running, gives you minus 10 discipline. And I'd rather have tier 10 discipline rather than tier 8 discipline. That's just me, but becoming Radiant is also a very nice thing to have, so I'd recommend Ember of Torches. And now for my primary weapon of choice with this build, I'm using the Traveler's Chosen because it has always been a beast for ability spam. It's like having Demolitionist, but for all three of your abilities at the same time. And with this build, all three of your abilities matter because they all tie into melee energy. Because your Grenade uses momentum transfer, your Phoenix Dive is using outreach, they all tie into the melee energy, so the Traveler's Chosen is really good here. And for my heavy of choice with this build, I'm using the Roar of the Bear with auto-loading holster and Demolitionist for that burst damage. However, I very much love using an Eager Edge sword like the other half because I like skating around with that Icarus Dash. This feels really good to me, especially in just general gameplay, which is what this build is kind of meant for. You can also use a Cataclysmic if you want, if you're doing some boss damage. Now, your weapon choices don't technically need to be solar because we're not taking advantage of Font of Might. However, you could if you wanted to. If you didn't care much for the health regen from Well of Life, you can easily throw on Font of Might, and right there you have triple solar weapons, because also the Traveler's Chosen has Osmosis, so you throw your solar grenade, it becomes a solar weapon, so you can easily take advantage of the Font of Might with this build. And that is pretty much everything explained for this build. If you have any questions about it, feel free to ask in the comments and I'd be happy to answer. And if you have any recommendations for something that would improve upon this build, feel free to share and I would love to try it out. I am super hyped to try this build out in Lightfall a couple months in, once all the Strand hype is over and everyone's back to their old subclasses. It's going to be so fun to try this out again because of the changes to the elemental affinity mods, you know, how you can mix and match momentum transfer and impact induction and bomber and outreach. That's going to be amazing, not only for this build, but for just builds in general, especially like Arc Titan with Heart of Inmost Light. It's going to be amazing for ability spam. The build game is definitely being changed. If you're a regular viewer here on this channel, you might know that we do builds here all the time. That is mainly what we do. And this is going to open up the doors to a lot of potential new builds. So I'm very excited for the content ahead. And if you're excited, feel free to subscribe. It's totally free. It's very much appreciated. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and drop a comment, because those two actions really help the algorithm and the video's performance. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. See ya.